Star Wars is back, but is it any good? That's the real question. Welcome to Bite Size Bunny, my name's Tony, and today we are going to be talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu. In this movie, Mando has been hired by the New Republic to track down Rada the Hutt and return him home to his aunt and uncle. Hijinks ensue, things aren't always as they seem, and yeah, it is a very straightforward Star Wars story. Going into this movie, I had the lowest expectations possible, but I actually ended up walking away from it fairly entertained. It is by no means a great movie, but I do think it is one of the better Star Wars movies out there, and I did have a lot of fun with it, despite being a very simplistic story. And if this happens to be the last time we see the Mandalorian and Grogu, I think I'd be kind of content with how this works as a send-off for those characters. Pedro Pascal is great in this role as usual, and it's always fun seeing Mando murk a bunch of stormtroopers. There's some really great action sequences throughout this film. One of the biggest surprises for me personally is I was kind of dreading this Rada the Hutt storyline. I was like, okay, it's the baby Jabba from the Clone Wars movie from all those years ago, making his reappearance in the Star Wars universe. I really don't care. And learning from the trailers and marketing that he was going to be this legendary gladiator had me even more unsure about where this was going. But his character actually ended up being one of the most interesting characters out of the entire cast. They actually gave him a lot of heart, and there's this interesting internal conflict where he doesn't really want to be like his father or anyone in his family, and he kind of just wants to be left alone to do his own thing. Though I will say, when I heard Jeremy Allen White was going to be the voice of Rada in this movie, I kind of expected to hear a little bit more of Jeremy Allen White's performance come through, because despite knowing that that is Jeremy Allen White going into this, his voice is so modulated and overly edited that I had a hard time picking up on the fact that that was him or his performance. It kind of reminded me of Benedict Cumberbatch's Schmog, where you can kind of hear him there at times, but you really have to listen in. When it comes to Grogu, he's cute. He's not really given anything to do the entire movie until the last act. It very much so feels like this is a Mandalorian story, and then they just consistently cut back to Grogu to show off a cute little moment here and there, which absolutely can understand how that would really work for some people. It would be a plus, and I can absolutely understand how that would take away from the experience and be kind of annoying to others. For me personally, though, I didn't really care for the most part. It's just kind of there. This does go on about 20 minutes too long. This would have benefited from being under 2 hours. But at the same time, I think that is a reoccurring issue of Star Wars movies after Empire Strikes Back. I will say, when it comes to the finale of this movie, they do kind of have a bait and switch moment that really disappointed me. There was a story beat in the finale that felt very bold and risky. I was here for it. I was on the edge of my seat, and I was sitting there thinking, no way, are they actually about to do this? And yes, there is no way, because they immediately undid that story beat not even 10 minutes after it took place. I personally would have loved if they committed to it and took the gamble. It would have raised the whole film by a point or two for me. But at the end of the day, while I did enjoy Mandalorian and Grogu, it does feel like a totally inconsequential movie. You could watch this without watching any of the show beforehand, and you'd be fine. But at the same time, you could watch the entire show and skip this movie and be completely fine as well, because there's nothing that happens in The Mandalorian and Grogu that really has an impact or any kind of lasting effect on anything that has already taken place in the show. It doesn't really move the needle forward in any big way. I do think this is a rock-solid standalone Star Wars movie that knows exactly what it is, and it's not trying to be anything more than that. I definitely think this is better than a lot of the previous Star Wars movies we've gotten in the past, and if I was to sit down and rewatch any of the Star Wars movies, this is definitely one that would be on the higher end for me. Again, it's not great, but it is fun, and I do think there are some interesting elements here that absolutely make it worth checking out. Maybe when it comes to streaming, you don't need to rush out to go see it in theaters, but it is worth a watch, especially if you are a Star Wars fan. I'm going to be giving Star Wars The Mandalorian and Grogu a 6.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And have you seen The Mandalorian and Grogu yet? If so, what are your thoughts on the movie? I'd love to know.